Yo, hey, this shit easy, nigga. Hey, all I'm talking about, nigga, I'm still out here trying to get it.
Contender Regime Boxing checking back in with y'all, man. What's happening? How y'all doing? So I wanted to talk about Derrick James, the trainer of the year by a landslide. If anybody else wins trainer of the year for 2020, it's a fucking abomination, a travesty, and just downright ridiculous. You dig what I'm saying? He has the best fighter at 147. You know, for the most part, most people would agree that Errol Spence is number one at 147. And then he has the best fighter at 154. Pretty sure everybody would agree that Jermell Charlo is the best fighter at 154. And, you know, I was listening to an interview that Derrick James was doing on Sean Porter's podcast, the Porterway podcast. Shout out to Sean Porter. Shout out to his whole crew over there on the Porterway podcast, man. They're really kicking us from dust and having some good boxing talk. And I really enjoy, every time I get a chance to hear those guys, hear a segment from their show. And they had Derrick James on there. And, one of the questions that Sean Porter asked Derrick James, what separates you from other fighters, or what make, not fighters, but trainers, and what makes you different? What makes you, a cut above the rest? Because there was a comment that made headlines from Sean Porter where, he said that Derrick James was overrated and that Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo would already be great fighters without Derrick James. There is some truth to Errol Spence Jr. and Jermell Charlo already being great fighters. Remember, Jermell Charlo was working with Ronnie Shields, who's a fantastic trainer, also the trainer of Jamal Charlo. He also trained Erislandy Lara. Ronnie Shields is a fantastic trainer, a great boxing mind. And Jermell Charlo is just a God-given freak of nature athletically. You know what I'm saying? He has all the attributes physically of a great fighter. He has a naturally a granite chin. And then he got power, and then on top of that, he's a smart fighter, cerebral, intelligent. He knows how to take the coaching and put it into action and apply it to his fights. Same thing with Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is extremely gifted athletically. He's a physical specimen. When you see him cut up at the weigh-ins, like bro has the physique of a fighter. He looked like Bruce Leroy. You know what I'm saying? On some old school kung fu type shit. You know what I'm saying? He looked like Bruce Lee. Errol Spence Jr. is naturally a gifted guy, but Derrick James brings a certain level of knowledge and wisdom to these fighters, to the sport of boxing. The thing, in my opinion, that separates Derrick James from most other trainers is he's not just a boxing trainer. He's actually a teacher. He actually teaches these guys. He puts the fighters before himself. He's focused on making sure that these guys are getting better day in and day out. He said something that was very interesting to me. He said that if they do something wrong, it's not on them, it's on me. You know what I'm saying? It's not on the fighter, it's on me. If they don't know something, that means I didn't teach them well enough. I didn't convey the message to them properly so they can understand what I need them to do. It's not their fault, it's on me. You know what I'm saying? Now you seen with Angel Garcia, when at the podium post-fight of Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia, Angel Garcia was putting all the blame on Danny, talking about, Danny didn't do enough, Danny didn't do this, Danny didn't do that. He didn't take none of the onus or responsibility on himself and say, well, look, I should have, worked on this with him in camp. I should have, worked on this a little bit more. I should have told him this. I should have directed him this way. He put all of the responsibility on Danny Garcia. That's what separates Derrick James from these other trainers, is that he's really a teacher. You know what I'm saying? He puts the responsibility on himself to make sure that his student, his fighter, is getting better, is learning the craft, is sharpening his game and making sure that he is on point. You dig what I'm saying? that's what separates Derrick James. He's not out here trying to get all the shine. He's very humble. He's just a student of the game, and he's a master. He's a student and a master of the game at the same time, because though he's mastered boxing, the knowledge of boxing on an extremely high level, on the highest level, he's still learning every day, trying to get better, trying to find ways on how can I put my fighter in a better position? How can I put my guy in a better position to succeed? How can we double up on this or triple up on that or work on this and just continue to show progress and get better than you was the day before? And I really love that about Derrick James, man. Like, he don't want none of the shine. He want to put, even he knows, I'm pretty sure Derrick James knows that he's damn good at what he do. But he always in the background. He let his fighters get the shine. And when you listen to him talk, you know, it's all about the knowledge. He always thinking it's all about the knowledge of the game and the fundamentals. And that's another thing that I like about Derrick James, that he's focused on the fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? He is not a whole lot of this flash in the pan stuff. You know, not all of this, you know, trying to psych people out mentally. Is all about just the pure fundamentals and the knowledge of the sport of boxing, the knowledge of the sweet science, man. And that right there can take you a long way. It's a lot of trainers out here that got athletically gifted fighters. I mean, it's a lot of these dudes that's just extremely talented physically and has, you know, intangibles like toughness and mental toughness and heart and stuff like that. But a coach like Derrick James gonna get the most out of his fighter, because he's gonna bring him back to the basics. He's gonna take him back to the fundamentals of the game and really, you know, he gonna get the most out of you. You know what I'm saying? With Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo was already a really solid technical boxer, good jab, good movement, could box off the back foot, can walk you down. But when he got with Derrick James just really made him a more complete fighter. Now, if you look at how Jermell Charlo performed in the Jason Rosario fight, a lot of people was like, man, what is he doing? He getting walked down by Jason Rosario, but it was the exact opposite. He was actually boxing off the back foot, setting traps for Rosario. That's why he knocked him down in the first or the second round. Then he knocked him down again in the sixth round. He hurt him multiple times in that fight because he kept allowing Rosario to come in and open himself up for these traps that Jermell Charlo was setting. And one thing that I noticed that a lot of people didn't talk about in that fight was the poise of Jermell Charlo. While Jason Rosario was coming forward with unlimited pressure, throwing punches and bunches, if you just pay attention to the demeanor of Jermell Charlo, it's like he was out by the ocean and there's a breeze. It's just quiet ocean sounds, and it's a breeze, and everything is calm. Your mind is at peace. If you look at his face, you can tell he never got flustered. He never got, uncomfortable or out of his zone. You feel me? He was always focused and just moving, focused, watching everything, throwing his jab, tying up when he needed to. You know what I'm saying? And then whenever he could get his shots off to catch Rosario in one of them traps, he did. But then again, he showed you in previous, and he stopped Rosario in that fight, but he showed you in previous fights that, Jermell Charlo, he can come forward with unlimited pressure and aggression, tactical aggression, and just bulldoze your ass. You know what I'm saying? He showed you he can do that. And for him to be able to fight how he did, when a lot of people said that he couldn't fight off the back foot in that fight versus Rosario, that spoke volumes about Derrick James. You dig what I'm saying? And with Errol Spence Jr., we seen Errol Spence Jr. fight multiple styles over the course of his career. And, that versatility that you see from Errol Spence Jr. and the way he put it all together versus Danny Garcia dominated Danny better than I've ever seen Danny Garcia dominated in his career. And the way he was able to put that together, to put the intelligent pressure on Danny with the jab, popping the jab all day in his face. If you look at Errol Spence's defense, his defense was phenomenal. This is the best defense I ever seen Errol Spence play, way better than the Mikey Garcia fight. And he was coming forward from round 1 to round 12 versus Danny Garcia, and it's the best I ever seen him on defense. And I mean, bro, like, Derrick James is a phenomenal coach, and he knows how to get the most out of his fighters. I think that's what separates Derrick James from these other guys. You know what I'm saying? He's really a teacher, and he focuses on the fundamentals, and he makes sure that he gonna get the most out of you. It's not your fault as the fighter, it's his fault. If something go wrong, it's on Derrick James. That's how he feel. It ain't your fault, it's my fault. I could have taught you better. I could have got the message to you better, more clear, so you can understand it. Not because everybody ain't gonna learn the same. I need to make sure that you specifically, I gotta be able to teach this to you specifically so you can get this message. You know what I'm saying? Derrick James is different, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. How do y'all feel about Derrick James as a trainer? What do you think separates Derrick James from these other guys, man? And, you know, I'm interested to see how y'all feel. And if y'all watched the interview with Sean Porter and Derrick James, man, let me know what y'all thought about that. Contender Regime Boxing. I'll holler at y'all boys, man.